Good morning, Las Vegas. We are coming to you today from the Adam versus the Man Studios, South Point Hotel, Casino, Resort, and some other thing they put on their signs. But look at this. We got a beautiful view. I think it's worth me being creepy dark for the whole show today. Just that's the mountains and the sky. And then there's some like bullshit casinos and like other buildings down around here in the view. But other than that kind of in the way here, this is a beautiful view from what are we on the 18th floor of the South Point Casino, something like that. So, had a fun night yesterday on our way back from Kentucky. Maybe it's good that I'm dark. I'm wearing my cheesy Vegas shirt, and I should put my sunglasses on because I think I have hangover eyes. It doesn't happen to me very often, but today I have hangover eyes. We had a lot of fun. We have a really cool show lined up for everybody today. I mean, for like nothing heavy. We're gonna have all the funs. I hope we have a good comment contest today. We have a really good news and history section. We're gonna do the drug war update that we didn't get to yesterday. We still have GI Mary Jane in studio with us today, so there may be some. Well, no, it's not even. Is it even illegal to smoke in a hotel in Vegas?
We're
like
we're
in the smoking. Well, we're breaking federal law at least. Man, I'm like, well, I'm breaking federal law. At least I'm breaking some law, right? Come on, I'm cool too. Yeah. But no, we did get to go to Kentucky, the land of prohibition, and hang out with our friend, the intrepid head shop entrepreneur, Ginny Seville with Botany Bay. And some of the stories today that we have, like, that are following up on Kentucky on like food shortages and labor shortage, is we had a forced unemployment crisis, and now we have a labor shortage. It's like, yeah. We're going to explain the economic dynamics of all of that, but is our co-host ready to go? Let's get her. Well, let's start with Jim today. Jim, you're coming to us from Phoenix. How's it going in Phoenix right now?
What's going on? Another beautiful day here. I haven't checked the weather, but I think it was supposed to be around 90. So some people think that's hot. I think that's perfect around here. It's just perfect enough. I went golfing yesterday. That's why I had to go so on time. We had a tee time.
Time.
Yeah, and it was absolutely beautiful, dude. It was beautiful.
You're one of those golfing hippies, huh?
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure you blend right in on the golf course anywhere in America, Jim. You look. I'm sure just plaid pants and little newsboy caps look perfect on you.
Let's put it this way. I golf with a pastor who smokes cigars and pees on the trees. He don't usually use the bathroom building that we end up. He has to go now. He just walks over to the tree. He's one of those freedom loving pastors.
I have to think that's a pretty common thing on golf. I mean, he sounds like a great guy. I'm sure he's
yeah. You're right.
But I'm not going to give him. You don't get street cred points for peeing on a golf course. I mean, yeah, okay. Like, I don't know, pee on a casino, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, fair enough.
Pee on a slot machine in a casino, and then we'll talk. Because these things are big. I mean, the bathrooms are like sometimes really far apart.
I'm just saying. Can't make it. Fair enough. I'll put him to the challenge. He does smoke cigars though, so I'm gonna send him to Cigar Federation and have him try some of those flavors.
Excellent. Well, you want to hit us with the promos, Jim?
Yeah, everybody's welcome. As we know, hit the public Telegram channel at t.me/Adam versus Man. It's always a cool conversation going on in there. Show notes are always in there. Adam mentions it all the time. If he skips through an article really quick because we don't have time, you can always go back to it in the show notes at that public channel. So that's awesome. Whenever we get our co-host on today, he's going to announce a contest. And if you win that contest, then you win access to the private producers club chat that we have also on Telegram. So it's just one level, one notch higher, one notch cooler than the public folks. So if you want to try it out, winning that contest to get access to that, that's awesome. If you don't like participating in contests, you just want to support the show financially anyways, you can always go to adamversusman.com like you see at the bottom of the screen and click on the Patreon link and check out the different ways to support the show. You got $1, $5, $10, or $50 a month. And $10 a month is what's going to get you access to the private producers club. that we mentioned. It's a good time. The links are also in there, but you also get the StreamYard link in there. You get more of our conversation 24 hours a day, pretty much, because we got people that live everywhere. So there's always stuff coming in. It's always a good time. After that, go back to the AdamVersusTheMan.com website and check out the shop that CJ's put together. He's got a lot of great items there, everything with all the logos, Adam versus the Man logo or the Freedom logo. You got hats, shirts, towels, hip sacks, beanies, lots of stuff to choose from. Make sure to hit the load more button.
Wait, hip sacks?
Hip sacks, yeah, right here.
Is that that's the official term for a
fanny pack? Fanny
no,
pack.
I'm not dissing on fanny packs. I'm like, I want to own the fanny pack shit. That like, cause I actually concealed carried in a fanny pack for a long time when I could legally in Virginia. Wait, was that legal? I don't remember. But I do remember I had a shorty 40 that I would carry. I would run shirtless and barefoot, and I wanted to be armed. So I had a little fanny pack that had, and ours isn't super tactical, but you could use it as a tactical fanny pack, and you could very easily upgrade it slightly, very easily. I mean, take any. This is just kind of cool gun, firearm, personal safety tip in general. Like if you want to conceal carry in a way that's practical, don't be limited by what you can find and buy. Now you can find and buy a fanny pack online that has a compartment in the back so it folds open and your firearm is held in by two elastic straps that fit the shorty 40 pretty closely. But if it doesn't quite fit your firearm, you know, you might want to have that custom built. You could buy an Adam versus the Man fanny pack and have you go to like any tailor, any neighborhood dry cleaning that does alterations will be able to sew in an elastic strap. And if you want that in a purse, in a jacket, custom holster, like get creative. And not that it's the be all end all in that realm, but you could hypothetically start with an Adam versus the Man. What did you call it?
Hip sack.
Fanny pack. Okay.
Fanny pack. Yeah, whatever. I don't even know why I call it that, but yeah, I've worn one a time or two. They're pretty convenient. And that's a cool idea too. I like that idea, having the elastic put in.
I want everybody to be irrationally afraid of people wearing fanny packs.
Is that a fanny? Is that a gun sack? Is that a weapon sack? Yeah, might come up with a new name for them. That could be part of the contest. Not to step on your toes, Jonathan, but you could come up with a new gun sounding name for the fanny pack.
What do you call a fanny pack with a gun in it? Fanny packing? If you're carrying one,
hey, I'm fanny packing, bro. Back up. I'm fanny packing. You better back it up.
Are you fanny packing, yo?
You even fanny pack, bro?
That could be taken a lot of wrong ways, but you know, I'll pack your fanny. Wait.
Oh wow.
It's Vegas. We'll keep that one in Vegas.
I think that one goes a different direction.
Oh, Rob Beep would like to point out
fanny in Australia is a vagina. Nice. Okay. That's a whole nother meaning.
Fanny packing. Yeah.
Nice way of saying ass pack. Yeah, pretty much. Exactly.
Because calling it a fupa pack just like doesn't have the same ring.
That sounds weird, right?
Because that's really the way people wear it. It looks like a fupa. That's why people like. That's why it looks. That's why it looks dorky. But if you're like, it's extreme. Like, and I mean, I'll call out my friend Morpheus Thomas Costanzo, who was there for the turbine raising. Did you mention GoGreenEnergyOnline.com? Our friends who gave us a wind turbine.
Not yet. I was about to go to them. Pull them up right now. What are you talking about?
Talking about like tactical fannies and whatnot. It was Morpheus who like he carries like his version of a fanny pack is like a belt strap-on man purse. Do you remember that he had? And it's like a tactical pouch that you would put on a flak jacket. It's like is it Molly gear? Is that the name of this? The system with the straps and the interweaving for pouches mounted on them. Is it Molly modular whatever lightweight? Yeah, I think Molly is the original name of the current dominant, basic military, like the strap pack system, right? Where it's horizontal straps across your flak jacket that you can push it in. It's a pouch that you would mount like that. He just wears it on his belt. and he has his phone. And I really considered doing that for a while, except that for me, it's like I wear cargo shorts. I have cargo pockets. That does the job for me. But he's kind of old school, and he's the guy who got in trouble for day trade, or not day trade. I always say it for local Bitcoin scraping, just like doing cash exchange, and got set up by the feds. But he's the kind of like sales guy, engaged guy. He's got papers. He's got he's got a notepad and pen, and I think he's got 2 cell phones. And like because for a while I was carrying 2 cell phones, and so I tried it, and I was like, there were a lot of times I'm like, man, I wish I had that little like I guess tactical pouch. We should get an Adam versus the Man tactical pouch too. But you couldn't fit a firearm in. Fanny pack. You can be fanny packing with a fanny pack.
Fanny pack. Unless you're in Australia, then that means something completely different.
No, then you can really be. Then it just has that many. I think we have to adopt that meaning of fanny.
You call that a prison. Okay.
I think packing in that fanny loses some tactical advantage.
The comment popped up, Rob P. Prison purse.
Yes.
Prison purse. Yeah.
Makes sense. So check out that website that Adam just mentioned, gogreenenergy.com, gogreenenergyonline.com, excuse me. Yeah, great website for all great resources, full of great resources, micro wind power, solar power. Click the links, check the website out, make yourself a little bit more intelligent with the off-grid situation. And then one more thing that I need to mention before you get to it is the Crypto 6. We've been bringing them up. They're in a horrible situation. Their Bitcoin church got raided, and they're needing legal help and everything. So check out thecrypto6.com, thecrypto6.com, and then click on these QR codes and help them out in any way you can.
All right.
Back
well, with that, oh, now I'm frozen again. Let's bring our co-host up here, Jonathan Evans, coming to us from where South Texas, El Paso area this morning. Good morning, John. How you doing, brother? Cheers.
All right. Good morning, Adam.
Yes, I should do this like proper promotion. We are coming to you from the South Point Hotel Casino with my Keurig coffee in the morning. Yeah. All right. What about you, John?
I got my anti-lactose milk. And I'm in West Texas, not South Texas.
Oh, duh. I was thinking of it as South because it's border town.
Well, we're right on the border of New Mexico and Texas and Mexico. We're actually only about
the 3 corners area. It's not. Damn it. It's not
no, they don't call it the 4 corners like Colorado.
But if you have 3 things intersecting, you only get 2 corners out of it. The other one's a straight line. Yeah. It's really disappointing geometry there. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. But
I haven't thought too much about it.
So we do have kind of a theme for today's show. The title is Biden's Border Blunders, in case anybody didn't notice somewhere affiliated with this video. That text may appear depending on how organized the internet is today. But the big blunder is actually in the PR. And I love that we got this. I can't remember who sent this to the Producers Club, but it was construction of Trump's border wall may continue under Biden administration admits. And you're like, oh my God. This is too fucking juicy of a headline. This is the start of our immigration segment. We'll get to your comment contest, but actually, let's do the comment contest first, so people have a chance to weigh in. And when we're done tapping your experience on this issue, we'll let you. You'll have some good comments to get to. So, what do you want to see today? Do you have like? Can we connect it to immigration?
Wow, I was thinking new name for who can come up with the best new name for a fanny pack. I mean, you guys got everyone going so far on that.
I don't think anybody's gonna beat fanny packing though as like a new vernacular term. Like I just fucking invented that, fanny packing. Not that I invented doing it. I am an old practitioner, I think, of like a 2nd or 3rd generation of fanny packers. But in terms of the new verb, to carry a firearm in a fanny pack, that's fanny packing.
I don't think we're gonna do better than that today. All right, so we can have multiple comments on keep the fanny pack jokes coming, but
All right.
you got I mean, so maybe something something intellectual to go with this dumb humor to this morning about immigration. I mean, I think this subject is a really important one for libertarians, and I do want to brag on myself. Well, my name's on the show. This is Adam's Ego in Vegas Day. But the messaging around borders and immigration should be reframed in terms of reality and libertarian values when we're advocating for freedom of movement. When we're not saying that borders should be open or closed, because that's none of our business. My borders on my private property, and for a community of people who come together voluntarily, we get to set whatever security policy we want for the edges of our property or within our property, other layers of security. That's because that's kind of what we're really talking about. And it gets deliberately confused in the national political conversation to be used as a wedge issue and political manipulation and blah, blah, blah. But the whole paradigm of government borders, when I just say, hey, look, I believe in freedom of movement, and borders can be as secure or open or closed as you want on your land or with your community. But what's a legitimate border? If I just conquer a bunch of area and put up a big fence around it, does it become my property legitimately? Of course not.
If you have the monopoly on force
well,
in that area,
I own property in Arizona. I have a right to invite anyone from anywhere on earth to come and be on my property. And you have no right to stand in between them. And this is a weird thing that a lot of libertarians don't know because we haven't lived it the way that some of us have in homesteading and buying land. But like with the roads, I can't build within 30 feet of the edge of my property on two sides based on county zoning. And I respect that, not because it's government doing it, because it's an approximation of what the market would provide, which says there should be a social standard given your area and geographical circumstances and the community you're in and the market for land that you live in. But you cannot use your property to deny someone else access to theirs. And it's like, the people that try to ask libertarians gotcha questions like, well, in a libertarian society, what if I buy all the land around your land? Well, it's still wrong to use your property to be an asshole, whether it's your land and you build a fence right up to the edge and deny people access to their land, or it's your fists and you're smacking someone in the face. Like, no, you're still just being a dick with your property. That's still a problem. We still want to address that as a violation of the non-aggression principle. Essentially, if I try to imprison you in your land or limit your freedom of movement around it or your access to it, I'm violating your property rights. It's really pretty simple. But John, sorry to interrupt. I just had to finish that thought. But what were you going to say? And what how does that relate to your experience in Texas?
Well, let me see. My wife is actually an immigrant, so I'm pro Mexicans. I mean, half my family's Mexican, so I'm for it. And in my experience, walls do a lot better at keeping things in than keeping things out.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to keep something in, you build a wall. Walls aren't so great at keeping things out. If people want to get in where a wall is, they're going to get in some way or another.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had an epiphany as you were saying that, because to me, it's sometimes it's hard to get back to libertarian basics because I go, okay, duh. And then you go on to the next thing, and I want to look at the news and then deeper analysis and analyze the economics and understand those underlying dynamics. And it's like back to basics for a second here. Compare this to the COVID narrative, right? And it's really exciting right now. I think I got this idea from a recent Owen Benjamin comedian friend of mine post. Someone shared, I think, in the bullshitters chat, the producers club bullshitters chat. But what Owen was pointing out is that if you look at the awareness around COVID right now and the way that people are going, I don't think I really buy this. Imagine that happening after 9/11.
Oh, geez.
Imagine this level of skepticism about COVID applied to 9/11. Imagine if half of Americans just didn't buy the narrative. Arabs bad. Go kill Arabs in the desert and nuke them all to glass because they knocked down our building. And even if you believe the government narrative about 9/11 itself, without even getting to the big obvious conspiracy, counter narrative here, there's no reason to go invade and occupy Iraq and Afghanistan for over a decade. Fucking insane, right? So it's like the holes in the narrative of COVID. To me as a libertarian, maybe I cover it too much. Maybe I do a block this week because I didn't do the show Monday. We had Steven filling in. We're going to do a COVID block Tuesday and Thursday, but normally I try to contain COVID on Adam versus the Man to a block Monday and a block Wednesday, and we always end up talking about it outside of that unavoidably. But I'm sort of fascinated as a libertarian with this new layer of statism, right? And how bullshit it is, and just how many obvious holes in the narrative there are. And as someone, and I got to stay humble because I fell for some of it for a while. So that other Americans are still falling for it might just mean that they don't have the luxury that we do of putting our heads into the news for 2 hours every day, and it takes them a little longer to untangle the bullshit, and they finally are now in large enough numbers that the fear is down, the skepticism is up, as we covered in the COVID block yesterday. But then, in terms of desensationalizing this or putting it in perspective, I'm going to compare it to immigration for a second here, right? And this is what you inspired me to connect here, is that the immigration argument, the anti-freedom of movement argument by government is just as full of holes. Just as obvious nonsense. The government is going to be the arbiter of who gets to cross this arbitrary line in the sand between the United States and Mexico sovereign territory. And if you think about people, a lot of libertarians are tempted to look. I'm going to end this with like a note of hope to send it back to you, John, connect to what you're saying about immigration, because a lot of libertarians are hypersensitive to what's in the news. And so when we see this new layer of medical tyranny, it's like, whoa, oh my gosh, but hold on a second. You see how destructive it is. Yeah, you want to pay attention to that, and your heart goes out to everybody who's suffering because of the COVID hoax. Not that the virus isn't real, blah, 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 but all the bullshit around it justifying things that aren't nearly justifiable. But I should say not anywhere near justifiable. But immigration, to bring it back to immigration, there are numerous studies now. I shouldn't say numerous, at least several studies. To me, that's numerous studies, right? But there are at least several studies that show that global productivity, as in output, like in GDP terms, would double if we just eliminated borders as restrictions on the free flow of human capital. If people were just allowed to travel for work, global productivity would double in terms of goods and services. Now, that might mean people get to retire or work half as much overall. Who knows? But the fact that you can measure now at the global scale, how much is this concept of government borders holding us back? And you go, well, we've just been kind of ignoring that to pay attention. So we could talk about COVID for this last year. The left hand is distracting us with COVID, and we don't see all the normal shit that the right hand is doing, smacking us around with immigration bullshit and the police state and blah, 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 corporatism, and, the Fed and the monetary system being at the heart of it. So sorry for that long rant there. Back to you, John.
I would just leave it with, is liberty the right to deprive someone else of their liberty?
Of course.
We all have the right to live.
Yeah.
And we all immigrated here at one point. Yeah, I'm not much for borders, honestly. I think they're dumb.
I'm gonna insert a second comment contest then to piggyback on your fanny packing contest.
Rename the fanny pack is what I was thinking, because it's been a bad name for years and nobody's come up with a better one.
Hip sack or hip pack was not.
He started it with what did Jim say? Hip pack? It was hip pack.
Maybe something with the word waste, because
I
waste.
used to
I have
I'm-
seen it
I
advertised
used
as
to
a
wear one when I was
Waste
in
wallet. That's kind of cool, but that
California.
sounds terrible, like waste wallet. That's like garbage. Sounds like the wallet I throw in the waste wall. The wallet made
Stomach
of
bag,
garbage.
stomach purse,
I like
belly
fupa
bag.
pouch, but I don't think we can get that to catch on the same way as fanny pack. No, but here's my
But
other
yeah,
comment contest. I think would just be best libertarian immigration bumper sticker slogan, because there aren't enough of those.
Okay.
So I think it's an under-messaged, because it's an under-messaged issue for libertarians because we're afraid of it. We shy away from it. And I think that I dare say that the messaging that I've come up with around, what is a legitimate border and what is freedom of movement? Where do you get to restrict freedom of movement? Does government get that right? Looking at it from that perspective, you don't have to be afraid of it anymore. And you can still combine this with practical policy. I'm talking to my fellow libertarian candidates and would-be candidates here, that taking this idealist position of government borders are illegitimate, only private property borders are. You can still say, how do we transition to that in a peaceful way? And again, localization gives you the answer, because one of the problems with the immigration debate today, or one of the false bullshit problems is, well, some cities are going to be sanctuary cities, and we don't want to be a sanctuary city. We don't want to let anybody in our city. No, but if they let people in and they help them get across the border to their sanctuary city, they could come to our city where we want a sanctuary for people who are like us, not them. And let people have their xenophobia at whatever standard they want it, and let people who are ready to be welcoming and create more diverse communities be able to do that on their own terms, rather than force everybody into a single policy. And with immigration, it really is, to people who do care about, like, let's be empathetic to the statists in this argument, who really do want to restrict freedom of movement because they don't see a better way to have security in their communities. And they're turning to the only thing that they know that government has given us, which is, government patrolled national borders and immigration policy, that's clearly failing and really frustrating those people. I mean, if you've fallen for the propaganda of being afraid of the others, right, as opposed to I want security for myself, my family, my community, right? If you've really fallen for that fear, it is legitimately scary that the federal government doesn't really care enough or isn't really effective in that. And you can say to those people, look, why not have the potential to actually get effective security by having borders localized? By saying, let your community set standards and security standards, and you can have something that's meaningful. Because if you rely, and you see already, that where's their private security that controls freedom of movement? Like right now, we're sitting in a casino with, like, it's a big ass building. I mean, how many rooms capacity is this hotel?
We're on like
But
1899.
yeah, thousands,
Thousands.
like a few thousand. Like, and if you think of this as a community that can be secured, that can invest in its own security, like it already does. When this temporary community of people who want to party at this casino, for at any given moment are together, there's legit private security that, like I found out last night, will ask you to stand back from the bar if you're not wearing shoes or socks on your feet. We can't serve you, sir. There is security here, and they do control movement. And they actually, like, when we came to the tower to get to our rooms, they checked that we had room keys, that we weren't just, randos wandering in. And that's all the security that's needed. But you could have something that's actually effective. And if you want to think about this as a more permanent version, gated communities that have security guards. And of course, they rely on police. If there's something, the security guard is really just an alert system. Minor confrontations can be handled by security in most gated communities, but they still rely on police for backup, right? But if that was privatized, or even we switched to a system where you could call for backup, but your security is, again, this is where do we get to limit freedom of movement? Private property. And guess what? That's where you can have real security. Once you fuck that basic concept up and go, well, let's have government provide giant security bubbles for people. No shit, it's failing, right?
I think I heard once that you can tell how corrupt and how decadent an empire is by how many laws the common man breaks just to get through a single day. And if a common person is going to have to commit a felony just to survive every day, you're nearing the end.
Well, hold on. There's a book, and since I'm going to look it up this time because I cited. It's a Columbia law professor. Yeah, but there's a book called 3 Felonies a Day. I think I was assigned it in college and never read it. But now I reference it like all the time. But yeah, it's let's see, we'll go to Amazon. Fuck it. 3 Felonies a Day: How the Feds Target the Innocent. The average. So the description of this book is the average professional in this country wakes up in the morning, goes to work, comes home, eats dinner, and then goes to sleep, unaware that he or she has likely committed several federal crimes that day. Why? The answer lies in the very nature of modern federal criminal laws, which have exploded in number but also become impossibly broad and vague. In 3 Felonies a Day, Harvey A. Silvergate revealed how the federal criminal laws have become dangerously disconnected from the English common law tradition, and how prosecutors can pin arguable federal crimes on any one of us for even the most seemingly innocuous behavior. And this is what should really scare people. Is that
That scares me.
And you know, I just noticed this again, you know, and Ginny and Joey and I were talking about this Ginny situation with the Botany Bay head shops. And some of us who have this activist mentality of, you know, hyper awareness of authority and where the lines are that we like to step over, we also are subject to a different kind of scrutiny in a lot of ways. And I don't want to jinx it in my case, but it's like, you know, how many things have I'm like, you know, no, I'm going to cut as many corners as the average statist, at least. And in Ginny's case, local businesses generally get to not stress about making mistakes on their taxes or cutting corners here or there. Not, oh, whoops, they get caught. Oh, it was just a little mistake. Sorry. But if you're the Botany Bay, if you're the biggest head shop in Lexington, owned by a libertarian, and she's an active, I don't know, not the biggest owned by a libertarian, biggest in Lexington, happens to be owned by a libertarian who's an activist, you know, yeah, they're going to scrutinize your shit. You got to cross your T's and dot your I's. And in 3 Felonies a Day, you go, fuck, that means if someone with that prosecutorial discretion in government, cop, law enforcement, prosecutor, judge, you know, whatever, anybody who can make that happen doesn't like you, they can pretty much go after you at any time. So yeah, seemingly innocuous behavior. The volume of federal crimes in recent decades has increased well beyond the statute books and into the morass of the Code of Federal Regulations, handing federal prosecutors an additional trove of vague and exceedingly complex and technical prohibitions to stick on their hapless targets. The dangers spelled out in 3 Felonies a Day do not apply solely to white-collar criminals, state and local politicians, and professionals. No social class or profession is safe, from this troubling form of social control by the executive branch, and nothing less than the integrity of our constitutional democracy hangs in the balance. I don't normally drink a lot of coffee. But Harvey Silvergate, just to pull up his, let's see, I click his name, it doesn't give me anything about him, just a list of stuff by him. Let's see, I guess I'm not really Amazon handy. Author, I can click on Harvey A. Silvergate, and it's still, anyway, I'm pretty sure he's a Columbia Law School professor. But yeah, it certainly stands to your point. And I just want to encourage people, whether you're libertarian or not, to take full advantage of all corners government allows you to cut. And you know, I came up with this other epiphany about this, and it sounds really sexist at first, but any woman with a sense of humor will be like, okay, yeah. I was actually in the car with Ginny and Joey, and Ginny was bitching about, like, government tells you to do all these things, and if you actually do what government tells you to do all the time, she was bitching about, was it her daughter's driver's license? Something, I don't want to get into someone else, non-public figure's life here, but It was something about a driver's license where they went to they because of COVID, they sent him to a different DMV in the next town over to take the test. Then they came back and said, okay, we're back now. We're here to do the paperwork and get the license. Said, no, you're supposed to do it this way. It's like, we did what you told us to do. And I'm like, this is how I feel talking to women. And I was like, oh yeah, government is like a woman. If you do what it says all the time, you're still going to get in trouble at some point, and she's not going to be happy, or at least at some point pretend to be unhappy in order to. Well, women aren't as bad as government by a long shot, but it's not like they don't vote for it. So not all women vote. Some women vote libertarian, and that's okay. But a lot of women, believe it or not, vote Republican or Democrat, and screw them for that.
Yeah, I do a little bit of consulting, so I see how their opinions.
I'm friends with a woman, so I can say stuff like that. All right, John. So I'm going to let you get to the comments, and we'll jump into the story. The stories here for our immigration block. Keep those comments coming. John will be getting them up throughout the show. So, Rob B. already weighing in. Business owners are foisting these protocols upon us to save their monetary stations in life. I know because two giant employers I'm friends with told me so. They employ over 20,000 people. Yeah, no, it's I mean that's an so I've kind of blamed corporations, and I suppose they deserve it at some level, but for doing government's job for it in terms, not just with tax collection, as we already again, bigger thing already in the background compared to COVID. I mean, like, seriously, we've been complaining that businesses have become enforcers of government policy with COVID, right? And that's problematic for many, many reasons. We go, okay, so stores are asking you to wear masks. Not nearly as bad as stores are collecting sales tax out of every sale and giving your money to the government directly for you. Like that they have been drafted as tax collectors in order to operate as retail businesses. Way bigger tyranny in the background that we've been ignoring in order to pay attention to COVID. So, all right, let's see. Clairvoyant amnesiac almost got thrown off the bus this morning for not muzzling. Well, I guess, do we have a story? Should we tell a story? Yeah, so yesterday on the airplane, it was our fourth flight on this trip for me and Joey, because we flew Vegas, Dallas, Lexington, then Lexington, Chicago, Vegas. And it was the Chicago-Vegas flight, the last one, that we really got a hard time from. And we, like, this is the thing. Like, I'm just going to walk up to that line. You want to be a petty tyrant, I'm going to make you call the other. They threatened. And even the pilot, this is where, like, I wish I was recording. The pilot came on the PA and was like, well, we're not going to call this passenger out by name because we don't know his. They were trying to get me to get, because I had moved seats. They were trying to identify me. Like, that's the thing. Like, if I had, I think I really walked right up to the line of getting fined, of being greeted by cops at the gate trying to give me a ticket, right? And I might have been able to talk my way out of it at that point. You're like, what do you can't detain me. Because they said, all right, yeah, and I would have resisted that, and I might have evaded the bullshit fine. But they were trying to ID me on the plane, and they couldn't because I had moved seats. They didn't know what seat I'm like. How really? There was. I mean, I don't like to call out individuals, and I could have, but like this one stewardess was just really obnoxious, Karen. And it's the thing with the businesses, to the comment here, a lot of these major employ 20,000 people. You're going to think of what's your bottom line. You're not probably more immediate bottom line, midterm, long-term future, like, do I get along with the authorities kind of stuff. But it really has revealed the petty tyrants waiting to happen in a lot of situations, even just. And I go back to, like, my experience with the pot shop in Flagstaff, where, like, I complied. I put my mask back on, and I kept it on. I'm like, all right, I'm in a dispensary. I'm not going to fuck with my chance to buy weed. But I wanted to have a conversation, and I wanted to challenge, like verbally, at least engage, and be like, why are you doing this? What's the situation? And the woman at the door was just like, this conversation is over. Like
that one TSA lady, you tried to ask her. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
She said it wasn't worth this. She said your life's worth more than this.
Yeah.
Challenge it.
So let's see. Anonymous, Newfoundland. I agree. I work for myself. Do I trade services for materials? I use as little as I can of the fake Canadian dollar, or pay taxes to help enslave more humans. Yeah. So just to the note of, what do you do with all of this? Be a conscientious consumer, top to bottom. And if we can drive, we drive. If we have to fly, we'll fly. I mean, it sucks that you even have to think of it that way. But just if you have a way of getting done, like we think about making money as the end. We have been like, for all the classes they don't teach that they should in high school about personal financial responsibility and basic adulting type shit, that we are still conditioned to see everything and evaluate and value everything in terms of the dollar. And it's really easy to escape that just by thinking about it differently. And even crypto challenging you to be like, well, I'll sell you this for a Bitcoin. Well, what's that going to be worth in dollars? Well, what are dollars going to be worth? Like, yeah. And then it makes you, it gets you to, what are real human needs? What are your real goals? What are you really trying to achieve? Like, it's not that I want money. It's that I want to be able to pay my cell phone bill. It's that I want to be able to talk to people. And they go, well, shit, if I have access to free Wi-Fi all the time in my life, I don't need to pay cell phone service. That's not true in my case, unfortunately, living off grid. But if you live in a city, to consider this, and maybe you need a phone or travel with someone with a phone if you're going out of the city. And this is kind of a bad example, because really you should get out of the cities in general. But if you're in the city and you always have, because I ran to someone who was doing this, and I'm like, wait, you have a phone but you don't have service? What? How does it? Oh, whoops. Yeah, you have Wi-Fi. No shit. Everywhere you go, and you can use Telegram and WhatsApp, and you can still text message and make phone calls. Oh, whoops, I've been paying. But you have this I have this weird expectation, like, well, because now I'm old, I'm going to be responsible and pay my cell phone bill every month. Well, let's get to mesh networks and 5G at the level where, the major telecoms just kind of render themselves irrelevant with, the next level of phone and service technology. Who knows, satellite internet or whatever, whatever the next thing is. If we have satellite internet and you can have an account with the satellite internet company, have internet anywhere on Earth, say goodbye to cell phone bills. I think the telecoms are really fighting this. I mean, they have to be, right?
Yeah. It terrifies them. Sure.
The same way that oil and gas fights alternative energy, the major telecoms, aside from fighting intellectual property bullshit, fighting whatever, you get the point. They're fighting against, idea freedom, data freedom. They're fighting for the intellectual property racket, because there's so many ways that they can use that to make more money. But they've got to be fighting against these base, because we've really got to be on the verge of basically every telecom company going belly up, right? I mean, they'll adapt. I'm not saying they're just gonna. I shouldn't say belly, but a major shift, a major downsizing of the telecom industry and cell phone. Like, if we have global Wi-Fi, global satellite, and that's just one. I mean, or mesh nets. Sorry, say goodbye to cell phone bills. Say goodbye to that concentration. That's, the concentration of control. The next level. This is going to pave the way for what I've been fantasizing about since the days of Diaspora as the social media network. That we would have some decentralized blockchain-based social media, and that maybe at 44 minutes into the show today, we would get to some headlines. So independent.co.uk. Back to the immigration headlines. Construction of Trump's border wall may continue under Biden administration admits. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, play it out. Joe Biden can stop construction of the wall, but has not yet taken steps to do so. Oh, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And the funny thing is with this, people are so dumb, and I hate to say, I don't want to say that people are dumb, because, I should say people have so fallen for the government racket, that the difference in flavor in rhetoric between Trump and Biden around immigration convinced people that their policies would be meaningfully different. That, oh yeah, Biden now, and you know, maybe I don't want to be too pessimistic, because this is a place where, at least rhetorically, libertarians sort of stand with Democrats on the side of freedom of movement, and most Democrats, without knowing it, who are for open borders, aren't saying, yeah, but private property borders are irrelevant. Let them come and, you know, attack your house. No, of course not. They don't really care for private property as the bigger principled concept. But this is one of the places where it's like, you know, like with drugs, you know, with cannabis, and I'm cheering for the Democrats to sort of, you know, be successful, which really means bend to the demands of their base and be forced to be the mechanism of the big Borg giving up, you know, cutting one of its limbs off to save its heart, right? And if it's sort of like, you think of government as that Borg body, right? Well, one of its limbs has become gangrenous. People smoke too much weed, right? And it's they have to cut off the leg to save the body. So it's like they're cutting off the drug war racket very slowly, as slowly as they can get away with it, of course. And I think similarly, the sort of border racket is fading. It's one of those things. At some point, government knows they can't control it. I mean, in this day and age, and this is the scary thing too. Remember, if you say government has the power to control who is in this territory, you now live in papers, please territory. If you don't prove your citizenship, or if you don't look at least this white, you might get carded and asked to leave the country. You know, hey man, I was born in East LA. That's the worst Cheech Marin impersonation ever. But yeah, Born in East LA. I mean, I remember that movie from when I was a kid, where it's like a guy who was born in East LA gets deported for looking Mexican. Well, if you lived in Phoenix until recently, that might have been the case there. And like, no, this is something that is, as you know, someone who looks effectively white, I don't really appreciate from experience. But if you look basically anything other than this, or black, I think black Americans are kind of safe on this one. Asian Americans, no, on being suspect of being here illegally, being subject to that scrutiny. But if you look Mexican in America, if you don't speak accentless English, you know, cops are gonna go, maybe I should ask him for his papers, right? I mean, I hope I'm not exaggerating that.
I feel like the Arab community deals with that.
Arab, yeah. Well, hold on. We have a story about terrorists coming over the southern border. Be very afraid. But first, just to this. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas told department employees that he may be greenlighting work on the wall to plug gaps in the current wall. Yeah, there's gaps in the current wall. There's a hole in the bucket. You don't know the words. There's a hole in the bucket. You don't know that's a classic. Do kids still know there's a hole in the bucket?
I don't know there's a hole in the bucket.
Oh my gosh. Somebody pull up a copyright-free version, please, of the great classic "There's a Hole in the Bucket." This is like Crazy Uncle Adam. You better know this shit. Story time. No, the hole in the bucket, or there's a hole in the bucket, is just like a dumb folk song. That is really apropos for a lot of government logic. It's sort of a circular logic, so I don't have to do anything story. Somebody have this. Are you pulling it up to send to Jim? Or send to the producers club and Jim will pull it up. Yeah, we're gonna hear there's a hole in the bucket at some point by the end of the show today. But next, Washington Times, Pentagon ramps up attacks on resurgent ISIS. It is not defeated. Now, why am I including this in the immigration block? Because of the story coming up next. But the idea that ISIS, I mean, I just kind of want to put this in perspective. Like, how many people are in ISIS? You know, they're going to say, oh, it's thousands, tens of thousands. But okay, how many people are in the U.S. military? Like, it's something like 1 million. Let's get the breakdown. Let's ask Google. How many in U.S. military? And that it depends if you count, you know, reserves, active, guard, and there's, you know, but total active duty. Oh wow, wow, it's actually higher than I thought. Number of military personnel. Army active duty is about 5,479,000. Army National Guard, although it's not the same as active, 336,000. It's all reserves. Well, I don't know, actually. That might include active, like people who are the staff at the National Guard facilities who are on full time. Navy active duty, 332,000. Air Force active duty, 327,000. Let's see, 8 more rows here because we got to get to the Marine Corps, right? Okay. Army Reserve, 282,000. Marine Corps active duty, 186,000. And your ISIS still exists? No. ISIS still exists because someone who controls the U.S. military wants it to exist. Just think about it for a second. There's no fucking way we give the U.S. military-industrial complex trillions of dollars and they can't defeat ISIS. The idea of the Pentagon complaining about ISIS or saying like, well, this is the thing to be afraid of, this justifies our existence. It's not David and Goliath. It's David complaining about a pimple on his butt cheek. Like, it's fucking less significant than that. Like, really, like if David walked around, who was he fighting for again? David versus Goliath in the Bible story.
It was the Israelites.
It was David the Philistine warrior. He was fighting for the Philistines. Imagine the great warrior of the Philistines. I'm probably getting this wrong. But the great warrior David of biblical times, who was like, what, some monster of a man. And he's going around waving his butt around. I've got a pimple on my ass. Give me more money to defend you. Like, that's what the U.S. military is, what you should think of when you hear the U.S. military, the Pentagon, that lost how many trillions of dollars right before 9/11? Oh, we just couldn't find it. Whoops. No, for them, that's what you should think of. David complaining about a pimple on his ass and waving that in your face to say, give me more money. That's what you should think of when you hear the Pentagon complaining about ISIS. And so this is the headline. Pentagon ramps up attacks on resurgent ISIS. It is not defeated. And even the idea of where does ISIS get funding from? You couldn't figure this out with the surveillance state that we've allowed the U.S. federal government to take on with all 5 ISIS. Oh, no, it's because the money is coming from the U.S. government inadvertently. Oh, whoops, did we leave a bunch of military vehicles behind in our, oops, oh, and they terrorists picked them up, surprise, surprise. It's all engineered bullshit. The Pentagon is ramping up its war against an enemy declared territorially defeated 2 years ago, fueling questions about whether the U.S. and its allies have the right long-term strategy to truly crush the Islamic State terrorist group once and for all. Do we need to do the numbers again? I guess to be fair, let's be fair to the Pentagon. How many ISIS members are there? Although it's better, I prefer asking, how many terrorists have been caught by the TSA? Okay, the CIA here. So I was actually right. The CIA estimated in September 2014 that it had 20,000 to 31,500 fighters in Iraq and Syria. It's grown now, but no, here we go. ISIS is estimated to have been between 8 and 16,000 fighters. Little is known whether they are full-time or part-time. The vast majority are militia, right? They're part-timers. They have regular jobs. They haven't quite gone full-time ISIS. They're like the National Guard of ISIS, the reserves. ISIS is primarily a reserve force, at most in the tens of thousands, even with grossly exaggerated government numbers. And the United States fucking military, with all of its active duty troops, can't defeat ISIS? Hasn't wiped them off the face of the map a long time ago? Yes, this is clearly an engineered failure. And now it's coming to the borders. But before that, Homeland Security Today.us. Yes, Government Technology and Services Coalition. What should we be afraid of with ISIS? They're online. Oh my God, ISIS cyber group launches cloud chat platforms to close ranks online. An ISIS supporting cybersecurity group launched their own cloud and chat platforms that they vowed would help turn out new propaganda and allow followers of the terror group to better close ranks online. And if you know the history of CIA deception, you go, well, this could be organic, or it could be like one CIA boss with one dude at a computer and him going, all right, you're going to do this, pretend to be ISIS for a while, and then we're going to put out a press release and we're going to scare people. And then, like, you, with that little leverage, they are able to invoke so much fear and change so much policy and steer money where they want. All right, Dalt and Cap promote voluntary changes and ideas, writes public schools teach you how to be depressed and condescended upon, stripping you of creativity while shoving fake history and superiority complex of America when we can't even feed them real food. Yeah. If the shit they feed kids in government schools is pretty fucking, it's child abuse, dare I say, when you have an alternative at least. Washington Times, though, here's the kicker with this story to bring it back to immigration. Nothing to see here. DHS deletes announcement of terror suspect arrested at border. You'll see where I'm going with this, but there are a couple different interpretations at least. Homeland Security has removed the press release announcing the arrest of 2 Yemeni men on the terrorist watch list. The release was posted Monday, but by Tuesday morning it was no longer available. An archived version is still available at the Internet Archive. The deletion sparked questions on Capitol Hill. Why did you take down your previously public tweet and press release announcing that 2 people on the terror watch list were apprehended exploiting President Biden's open border policies, demanded the Republicans on the House Homeland Security Committee? These are the people who are going, oh, yes, David, let us give you more money for that pimple on your ass. They really care about Homeland Security. The Republicans said transparency in name alone is not transparency. So what I think happened here, because Customs and Border Protection, which oversees the Border Patrol, didn't respond to multiple inquiries. They've gotten mum on this, but the Border Patrol announced Monday that agents had arrested 1 Yemeni man last week near Calexico, California. Yemeni man. That sounds like a cool superhero name. Yemeni man, but no, it's a man from Yemen. Not as exciting. I'm thinking like laziest ethnic slurs. The John Mulaney joke, Chinaman. You put China and man and put it together, and that's the insult. You must be afraid of those people. Yeah, no. Yemeni man arrested in Calexico was on the FBI's terrorism watch list and the no-fly list, allegedly. And my theory here as to what happened is that the story just doesn't hold up. There was some lie, there was some bullshit. And they go, oh man, if this gets subjected to scrutiny and the Republicans in Congress get a hold of this and hold this up as a failure, as opposed to just, but look, if we just bury this one and say, I'd tell you, but you need top secret clearance for me to tell you why we deleted this post. And it's for security. It's not because we're full of shit and we screwed up. It's because security. Security. Yeah, got to keep this one. Terrorism. 9/11. Still with us. And again, you think about COVID. A lot of libertarians are trying to figure out, how bad is this, right? Like we've been asking. Like it came up in the conversation last night. Where are we going with this? How long is it going to be with us? And the best. And this goes back to the curve of tyranny. It's just going to fade into the background as another layer of tyranny. And if you can step back and take the perspective of weighing even this thing that is very present to us, not just because it's masks in your face everywhere, but I think that's going away. I really do. Mask mandates, I don't think are going to last. And they could come back. I'm not going to say like it's impossible they're going to bring them back. And that's very much in your face about this whole thing. But even that, fading into the background, even the mask thing is not as bad as taxation and the police state and all, the immigration racket, Border Patrol, and even the drug war.
I've been pulled into secondary at that Calexico crossing over cigarettes.
I've been pulled into secondary at the Border Patrol checkpoints 100 miles within our borders on the 10 freeway. But anyway, so this story disappearing just tells me that it was a bullshit story to begin with. So what are the Arabs really up to? We go to Reuters next. Arabs, for a little window on what other people are dealing with in statism around the world. Arabs talk sex and taboos on Clubhouse app, but for how long? And as a means of or an opportunity for empathy here, think about what most people living in the Middle East deal with. They live under some flavor of theocracy where the state is used to impose religious values. And maybe it's just because Islam is better than Christianity at incorporating with the state that way, or at least right now. Maybe not historically, of course. But the story goes on. Arab fans embrace Clubhouse as a means to broach matters seldom discussed in public, while some fear a broad clampdown by authoritarian governments in the region. Like we here in the United States, we have a pretty well entrenched expectation for freedom of speech, right? And we complain about government nibbling around the edges because it's worse than that. The propaganda manipulation is a whole, as Alex Jones would say, it's an information war. But we've got the documents, and they're making the frogs gay. I haven't done those lines. I haven't done those lines in a while. I couldn't resist. But there's the manipulation of the narrative in the United States is more about shadow banning, like we've experienced with this channel, the manipulation of mainstream propaganda. The direct censorship is a relatively small part. Like you could call it all censorship if you want to use that term very, I think over inclusively. But in terms of the information control of the dialogue, the paradigm, the United States government has gotten to a level of deceptiveness where they don't have to resort to direct censorship in order to have the desired effect. Whereas in a lot of Arab countries, that's not the case. Their governments aren't at that level, and the direct censorship is truly horrific. And people get flogged. People face corporal punishment. People face serious jail time for saying stuff. I mean, even in in Thailand, where they have we covered the story, and I think in COVID block, the COVID block we did last Wednesday, that lèse majesté, like to insult the king or to insult the crown, is a crime in some countries still. Yeah. Who are you not allowed to insult? Then you know who rules you, right? So, U.S. audio chat room app proves popular in Middle East. Clubhouse provides rare forum for open debate on taboo subjects. Users, analysts wary of wider crackdown by governments. And oh wait, in the United States they shut down Parler and apps, or Parler and Gab, right? So who knows? There is that censorship, but here at least there is still the expectation that somewhere on the internet you're going to be able to talk about whatever you want without fear. Really, like if you're not, there's some lines to that are sort of appropriate, like that because you can violate the natural law with speech, committing fraud, or making threats. So with those given limits, but we do have a general expectation that you can be anonymous on the internet in the United States, and government is not going to hunt you down for saying something politically or sexually or culturally offensive, right? Is that true?
No.
No?
Did they do that already?
But no, in the United States, you can. I mean,
you can say what you want, but
pedophilia, if you want to argue that you have a right to kiddie porn, I don't. Like you could say, but no, that's because there's a victim involved at some level, right? But aside from things like that, we have a pretty good expectation of freedom of speech online in the United States, that we're not going to get our doors busted down for saying stuff, really, for the content that we're creating. That's not true in most of the world. The internet is not like that. If you're posting stuff online and you're using a VPN in order to do that, you might have to worry that you're still going to get given up by some company involved, and you're going to get outed to your government, and they're going to fuck you. Like, we take that for granted. That is a privilege that we enjoy as citizens of the empire that a lot of people in other countries around the world don't, and especially in the Middle East and China. I mean, the Great Firewall. Like you get prosecuted for speaking out against the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party. So anyway, newstimes.com, Washington Post. The Trump White House provided reporters with a gusher of leaks. Everything's changed. And this is something that I pointed out about all the stories we skipped in the Trump administration, that it was just like bullshit. But also the trial balloon concept comes up here. So The story goes, after 2.5 months of Joe Biden's presidency, something is missing from the news coverage of his administration: leaks. Juicy details about the president's behind-the-scenes conduct and decision-making. No one seems able to dig up anything interesting. Early forecasts of major policy proposals on the horizon, aka the grand tradition of the Washington trial balloon, a story we're not getting to read these days. Now, the trial balloon thing, that's still happening. This is something we talked about yesterday on the show. The government is like the creepy guy at the bar that I'm starting to look like. That one, yeah. So when they're going to do something that they're trying to get away with, like vaccine passports was the big example. I don't think they're actually going to move to that, but they are trial ballooning vaccine passports pretty hard, and that serves a few purposes. They get the public feedback, they get a sense of what they can get away with, and if they can make the conversation about are we having vaccine passports or not, then everything sort of lesser than that becomes, it becomes almost a conceded point. Right? Or are we arguing should government pay for vaccines at all? No, we're arguing should we have vaccine passports or not, because that's what they're using that's what they're trial ballooning, I guess in common political apparatchik parlance, according to the language used by the Washington Post. It's the tradition of the Washington trial balloon. And it is very appropriate to compare this to a creepy dude hitting on a chick going, well, something butt sex, something. Oh no, I was just making a joke. I wasn't just trying to get that into the conversation to see how you would react. No, I was just making an innocent joke. I'm not even into that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, government, sure. So you just stay away from all my holes. Yeah, okay. But there is a significant shift here in the sort of messaging strategy out of the White House. And this is where I said, that was unique under Trump. So it's interesting to see it kind of go back to the pre-Trump normal of not weaponizing the potential, constantly this was part of the Trump messaging strategies to constantly weaponize the potential for drama and the ability to draw eyeballs. And Trump is great at this. He's the reality TV star. This is the measure of that and how he applied it successfully. He did that successfully. Whether obviously the outcome was not successful for him, but he so whether the strategy was wrong, the tactic itself was very well executed by Trump. He got a lot of attention, and he got people to pay attention to bullshit White House drama that shouldn't have ever been in the news, but was in the news because of the way Trump was able to manipulate the media. Oh my God, they didn't realize that he was playing them the whole time. All right, so we have a little more international news here before we get to the fun stuff in our grab bag and the NFT silliness. I think I called it. I don't know if it's too early to say I told you so on the NFTs, but we'll get there. Associated Press, U.S. military cites rising risk of Chinese move against Taiwan. And I guess if we could go back to the David and Goliath analogy, David complained about a zit on his butt. This is like the two brothers, David and his twin brother, David, complaining about getting into a bitch slap contest with each other. Like they're not, the governments of China and the United States, and government serves existing economic powers, right? Concentrations of wealth and exacerbates them. So, our China, like the China-U.S. fight it's all something that is being created. Remember this, like by the super class, like with every other government racket, to make the rich richer at the expense of the rest of us. Is there really, a spat between the Chinese government and the American government? Oh yeah, definitely. At some level, there's a power play, but if you buy into their nationalism of identifying yourself as a Chinaman or an American or an Americans, then you have this identity as a nationalist identity where you identify with your captors. And if you see it's China versus America, you don't stop and go, well, really, it's the Chinese government versus the American government. Where it's like two cattle ranchers having a dispute. And if one of them could take over the other one's ranch, they absolutely would. But in this case of sort of global geopolitics, you can't do that directly. So there's it's more behind the scenes fighting, and they're not fighting to destroy the other. When you think of it in nationalist terms, That's what they want you to think. Oh, it's China versus the United States, and therefore, we all have to fight for our survival against this other great global superpower, because it's never been Russia. That was a joke from the beginning. And I'll point out every time, Russia's economy is about a 30th, 1/30th the size of the United States, whereas China's is actually on par with the United States and bigger by some projections, and with more people growing faster by some projections, set to overtake the United States. I don't know, we haven't heard these stories much recently, but they're about to come roaring. Little prediction, because we've seen these sort of sprinkled in the news over the past decade, maybe, like, oh my God, look, China's economy is overtaking the U.S. economy as world's #1, and they already have for military personnel, but nowhere near on military spending. That might change, and that becomes very scary for Americans. I should say the Americans, because I'm an American and I don't give a shit about this fear-mongering nonsense. But if you're an American and you want to bend over for government and believe everything you're told by the mainstream media, it's very scary to think that the Chinese economy is going to overtake the United States economy, and with more troops and then more money, they're going to be able to destroy the United States. No, they'll just keep buying us out like they have been. I think it's a lot of collectivist language in there. I'm sorry if I didn't. They, us, no, that was definitely across some lines. But the bigger story here right now is that it's about Taiwan, because China has already successfully muscled its way into Hong Kong, and now it's other, outlying disputed territories. You've got Mongolia, where the Uyghurs are. Is it Mongolians? No, the Uyghurs. They've got the Uyghurs in the north, where they're oppressing an ethnic minority community. You've got Tibet, the long-standing Free Tibet fight of fucking decades. Same thing with Taiwan, right? In that this is long, protracted geopolitical fight for the Borg of the Communist Party of China to extend its empire a little bit more directly. So to Taiwan, the bigger fear here is that this could be World War III if China goes after Taiwan, and Taiwan is a U.S. ally, and blah, blah, blah. So that's why this is a significant story. The American military is warning that China is probably accelerating its timetable for capturing control of Taiwan, the island democracy that has been the chief source of tension between Washington and Beijing for decades, and is widely seen as the most likely trigger for a potentially catastrophic U.S.-China war. The worry about Taiwan comes as China wields new strength from years of military buildup. It has become more aggressive with Taiwan and more assertive in sovereignty disputes in the South China Sea. Beijing also has become more confrontational with Washington. Senior Chinese officials traded sharp and usually public barbs with Secretary of State Antony Blinken in talks in Alaska last month. A military move against Taiwan, however, would be a test of U.S. support for the island that Beijing views as a breakaway province. Well, you can't break away from the CCP. For the Biden administration, it could, just like you can't break away from the North. For the Biden administration, it could present the choice of abandoning a friendly democratic entity or risking what could become an all-out war over a cause that is not on the radar of most Americans. There are a lot of important things not on the radar of most Americans, like the other 8 billion people on Earth. We're at 8 billion. We're rounding to 8 billion now. I know it's 8 billion minus 330 million, whatever. This accumulation of concerns meshes with the administration's view that China is a frontline challenge for the United States, and that more must be done soon, militarily, diplomatically, and by other means, to deter Beijing as it seeks to supplant the U.S. as the predominant power in Asia. Wait, the U.S. is the predominant? Yeah, the American empire is pretty big. Some American military leaders see Taiwan as potentially the most immediate flashpoint. Admiral Philip Davidson, the most senior U.S. military commander in the Asia-Pacific region, told a Senate panel last month, referring to a Chinese military move on Taiwan, quote, "We have indications that the risks are actually going up. The threat is manifest during this decade, in fact, in the next 6 years. So you better not cut our budget by a penny." Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic, I think, in the face of the bigger fear mongering here of this being potentially World War III in the making. They can't really get away with that. I don't want to underestimate government's ability to make things messy, but if you look at how much less war government is able to get away with over time. Again, referencing the work of Harvard professor Steven Pinker. If you haven't seen it, see his TED Talk, The Surprising Decline in Violence. It really is a powerful, positive, metric of human progress. And when I see a story like this, and I look at the Taiwan, China, World War III, U.S.-China situation, I think at some point in the next decade or two, there is going to be a groundswell of anti-militarism that is going to say, we can't have nuclear weapons lying around with politicians with red buttons. That's just, no, let's not. It's sort of a maturing of the anti-war movement to say it's not enough to be anti-war, but to say, let's take this possibility away from governments to make war in the first place, and say, no, we're not going to let you have these tools that are purely destructive anymore. So I think what we're seeing here more is the Chinese long-term soft power game that they've applied relatively successfully, unfortunately, in Hong Kong, although that might have been because of the pandemic. When you think about the timing of that, certainly very fortuitous for the Chinese Communist Party, because right before the lockdowns and the shutdowns that made it easier for them to muscle into Hong Kong had a huge independence movement. And it wasn't just we want sovereignty or we want autonomy from Beijing. It was independence, Hong Kong independence, and it was China losing a very important part of its empire. So you see how they've been very patient. I mean, there are certain cultural differences. We can look at the Chinaman. I didn't think I'd be saying that so many times on today's show. Is that really? That's not an ethnic slur. It's like the laziest. It's certainly the laziest of ethnic slurs. Obviously, I'm not using it that way, but yeah. There's something to be observed in the cultural and intellectual differences and proclivities between the West and the East here. And there might be a case to be made that they have a longer term view than we do. Certainly, just how much history do you learn of American history in textbooks? Well, it doesn't go back much further than 1776. You want to study Chinese history? There's a lot more to it. It goes way back. And there's a lot more cultural development over that time. So the decision makers in China and the sort of mass of public and bureaucrats and everybody else in China who supports that have inherently a much longer view of human history than Americans in general. Now, whether this is relevant, is it all string pullers in Switzerland with giant bank accounts maybe who are really running this? Probably not that simple. But is it something else internationally? Yes, it's definitely not as simple as the American character versus the Chinese character. No, but they do want you to think of it that way. And the nationalism of, oh yes, it's the Western man versus the Eastern man. It's like, no, yeah, no, don't believe the hype. Speaking of not believing the hype, we have a very offensive story from The Intercept. Cops crowdfunded their canine's hospital bills, then quietly admitted they had shot him. Yeah, the headline really kind of says it all, but I got to have the details right and understand this one. The cops in Thurston County, Washington, made no such effort to support the recovery of the man they shot and who had to be hospitalized. Yeah, this is Akela Lacey. Police canine and TikTok star gets life-saving surgery at OSU after he was shot twice, read one headline from ABC affiliate in Oregon this January. Thurston County Sheriff Canine Arlo back home after undergoing surgery in Oregon, read another. I've read this whole story. I really want to summarize it, but it's too good of a story to not just read. So here we go.
No later.
Right now, a police dog and an armed driver are in the hospital after a police chase and shooting overnight in Thurston County. A Como News reporter told viewers on January 14, the day after the incident, quote, the state patrol says one of its troopers shot the driver. The driver shot a canine named Arlo. A few days later, Q13 Fox reported that the sheriff's office said a suspect exchanged gunfire with officers, injuring the suspect and canine Arlo on scene. The story that a canine named Arlo was shot in the line of duty in Thurston County, Washington, made waves in local news for weeks and even garnered national attention. It had all the elements of what cable networks like to portray as feel-good news. Police had apprehended a suspect in a high-speed chase He pointed a gun at them, and their dog had been injured in the altercation. But not to worry, thanks to efforts from the community and law enforcement, Canine Arlo was on his way to a speedy recovery. The only problem? The gun wielded by the suspect that some had suggested shot Arlo didn't contain any bullets. No shell casings from his weapon were found at the scene. The only bullets that were fired came from the police. Shocking, right? On January 20th, no. And you know what? I want you to keep in mind as I read the rest of the story. This is coming out in the modern era where the lies on the internet can be easily contrasted against police reports. That was not the case, even as little as maybe 20 years ago in some places. In most of America, the internet was just being born into its what we know it as today, let alone mature to the point where this is common and cops have a self-consciousness of this and are know that they can be held accountable because everybody's got the ability to live stream video in their pockets, right? How much of what we know of police history is this kind of bullshit that in the past they just totally got away with? And I think about John McCain. I used to make fun of John McCain as sort of the last of a dying breed of pre-internet politicians who would go to an event one day and say one thing and then totally flip-flop and contradict themselves and invent the next day. It's like, well, when that's on YouTube, contrasted, cut together the next day after, well, John McCain doesn't get away with that shit anymore. And politicians kind of learn. And John McCain probably isn't the best example, but just one. So back to Arlo, the hero dog. On January 27, the Mason County Sheriff's Office, which led an investigation into officers' use of force in the shooting, notified the public that Arlo had been shot by friendly fire. But it wasn't until weeks later that local outlets like The Olympian, a paper based in Olympia, reported on what had actually happened. By that point, Arlo's story had taken on a life of its own. Remember, nothing on the internet is real. The Thurston County Deputy Sheriff's Foundation organized a GoFundMe page and raised, well, you know I'm real. I mean, if I was AI generated, I'd have better hair. The Thurston County Deputy Sheriff's Foundation organized a GoFundMe page and raised more than $73,000 for Arlo's medical bills. Arlo grew a social media following on TikTok to 2.5 million, and on Instagram to 130,000. Arlo's handler, a deputy with the sheriff's office, together with another canine handler and ex-cop, started a website called Varlo Nation, a business for law enforcement officers and others to buy affordable quality equipment. No such efforts were made to support the recovery of the suspect, who was hospitalized after being shot at least 3 times by police and later told the nurse he was contemplating suicide. He was released from the hospital in late January and booked into the Thurston County Jail. The police say they did not mislead the public about the incident. They also said that they did not mislead the public about not misleading the public about the incident. And then they also said that they did not mislead the public about not misleading the public about not misleading the public about the incident. So clearly they're not lying because they investigated themselves and cleared themselves of all wrongdoing. Quote, to the best of my knowledge, we did not make any statements that the dog was shot by the suspect or was shot by the officers until we were very comfortable. Jason Dracolby, Chief Criminal Deputy of Investigations at Mason County Sheriff's Office, told The Intercept the department declined to comment on local reporting that the suspect had shot Arlo or that the Thurston County Sheriff's Office had described an exchange of gunfire. The Thurston County Sheriff's Office and the Canine Unit did not respond to requests for comment. Yet Thurston County Police continued to ride a wave of public interest that followed the friendly fire incident. As of at least mid-March, 2 months after the incident, police were selling merchandise with the dog's photo and had even partnered with a local graphic design shop that had agreed to give $1 from every sale to help fund the Thurston County Sheriff's Office Canine Unit. It would be slightly less offensive if they weren't lying to raise money for the police. If it was like, it's a police officer, it's a genuine charity sort of outside of official channels. But no, they're giving the money to the Canine Unit. Yeah.
Great marketing.
The 6 officers involved in the incident were put on administrative leave pending the use of force investigation carried out by the Region 3 Sheriff's Critical Incident Investigation Team, or CIIT, the CIT. A unit that has not always been forthcoming. About the details of use of deadly force incidents, the Washington State Attorney General found 22 deadly use of force incidents in the state over the first 6 months of last year. His office requested that agencies investigating such incidents complete surveys on their compliance with the police reform law requiring independent inquiries into use of deadly force. The CIIT declined to participate in the study. The Thurston County Sheriff and the sheriffs of 4 other police departments in the area signed a letter to the Attorney General's office explaining that they would not complete the survey, but would turn over files related to specific incidents upon request. When the incident initially made headlines, the police had released little information on what had prompted their chase of the suspect. Officers later said they had seen the suspect driving erratically and tried to make a traffic stop, but that he kept driving and a chase ensued. Afterward, it was reported the suspect was under investigation by another department for sexual assault of a child. Let's demonize the guy. Yeah, of course. Why not? According to, and he also committed 3 felonies today.
I bet he smokes weed.
He's totally a pot smoker. Definitely a druggie. I mean, those are the ones that shoot dogs. No, wait, no, those are the cops. Sorry. According to a probable cause statement, officers said the suspect, quote, this is the irony of the story. Cops don't just shoot your dog, they shoot their own dogs. According to a probable cause statement, officers said the suspect told them he had tried to attract their attention and wanted to die rather than go to prison. Details about the shooting itself were revealed in an incident report dated January 13, first reported on by the Olympian and in late February, and obtained by The Intercept. According to the report, law enforcement deputies from the Thurston County Sheriff's Office and a trooper with the Washington State Patrol fired at the suspect for 7 seconds. That's a long time to be shot at.
A long time.
Think about 1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana, 4 banana, 5 banana, 6 banana, and you're still getting shot at 7 banana. There's a lot of rounds they're going to put out in 7, but that's 7 seconds of terror. After the suspect was taken to a local, and pain, I guess the guy got shot, so it's not just, no guy actually got shot. What am I saying? A nurse told him, after the suspect was taken to a local hospital, a nurse told him that it was her understanding that he had shot the canine. Imagine that, being in a hospital, depending on people for medical care, and they're told that you're a dog shooter. Yeah.
You get great care from that.
Yeah. The suspect later told investigators at the hospital that the gun wasn't functional. January 27 press release, Mason County Sheriff's Office notified the public that the prosecutor had requested an independent review. After the investigation, they cleared officers of wrongdoing and declined to bring criminal charges against them. The officers have returned to duty. These dangerous fuckers are still being paid on the street to carry guns.
They're off their paid vacations
So,
real quick.
yeah, the dog's injuries required tens of thousands of dollars in surgery. I mean, I feel sorry for the cops, and this is like, you stop a second and see, you feel sorry for the dog, right? Like, does the dog know that he is being used to do something criminal? No, of course not.
They're tortured.
But-
They're victims too.
Then you go the same way, the cops themselves, just at a deeper psychological level. They're victims here as well. And then they're being used now back on the street. So Arlo's handler documented his recovery process on social media, published Instagram posts claiming Arlo was shot by a suspect that has since been deleted. I mean, can you fucking sue for framing? If you're
Suing the state.
now you have to live with a false accusation that you're a dog murderer. Yeah, you're not going to get away with suing the state, but this is some really fucked up shit. I mean, I really feel sorry for the suspect here, especially. Mason County investigator made multiple requests to the sheriff's office that the handler be instructed to stop using social media. Yeah. Arlo returned home in January to much fanfare and honored as a hero. And it's amazing how they, Jim put the footage, on screen earlier, and it's like how he's being glorified. Arlo returned home in January to much fanfare and honored as a hero. Every dog has his day. This is the quote. The New York Post wrote, "Every dog has his day," woofing up a whopping 5.2 million likes on TikTok. Canine officer Arlo was afforded a howling hero's welcome as he walked out of the hospital Monday after a near-fatal shooting. I'm kind of glad for the dog that he doesn't know how he's been used, because that would be a whole other mindfuck. I think about Dakota Manning, Marine Corps Medal of Honor winner who was like manipulated with a bullshit story, and then he gets sent on all these PR tours. Like that's some weird psychological torture that he's got to deal with. Is it Dakota? No, Dakota Manning. Dakota Fanning. That's an actress,
That's
right?
Dakota Fanning.
Wait, no, Dakota Myers. So Dakota Myers is. I interviewed him. There's a video on my YouTube channel, really ripping him a new one. But anyway, in February, the dog was awarded the 2021 Paw of Courage Award from the American Kennel Club, which promotes purebred dogs. The dog retired last month at the recommendation of his vets. Arlo will appear at a fundraiser for the Georgia Police Canine Foundation in June.
So they are carting him around.
This year, he is still being used as this propaganda tool, and I say so is Dakota Meyer. At least I hope he's escaped that. All right, now deeper into the grab bag here for some random stories. Associated Press, will the Oscars be a who cares moment as ratings dive? We can only hope so. The less relevant Hollywood is as the monopoly on movie format entertainment, the better. And yes, we may be at a turning point for Hollywood itself. Very exciting. Now remember, okay, NFTs. Here we go. Observer.com. Has the NFT bubble popped already? Market data suggests new deals might be DOA and dead on arrival. Non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, have taken the digital art and collectible market by storm this year. But the format's popularity among crypto buyers may have already peaked, according to new market data, even as trading platforms and collectible companies continue to up their bets on the nascent digital asset. Yeah, no. User activity, transaction volume, and average sale price have all catered in this recent week, according to nonfungible.com, a crypto market research site. The average price for an NFT sold this week was 70% lower than what it was in late. An average NFT sold for $1,250 on April 5. Now, average NFT is a non-fungible token, actually refers to a lot more, hypothetically, than what is being counted here as an NFT or this particular phrase. The term non-fungible token is actually sort of broader than this current craze of NFTs becoming a thing where it's really just a unique digital asset that is supposedly unreplicable, or you own the original artwork version of something that's already digital and out there on the internet. So I looked at the way this was being started and that there were a few trades of multi-million-dollar things. I was like, this is definitely bullshit. Like, and there were some artists that legitimately made. I mean, think about it. Some of the sales were going in the tens of millions of dollars, right? Jack from Twitter sold his first tweet, or did, and then didn't, something like that. A few, I think it was like a few millionaires just sending money back and forth, or even one guy, because it was anonymous buyers, for a lot of these big sales. Well, like you bought it from yourself, asshole. Like, it was all bullshit. And I think there was a bit of this is going to be untangled as the NFT conspiracy eventually, or just scam gimmick sidebar story to crypto. And one of the things they're comparing it to is Ethereum, excuse me. But they're saying 70% lower than like February. This is in spite of the dollar value of ETH, the main cryptocurrency used in NFT trading, hitting an all-time high in recent days, meaning that people were spending even less in crypto terms on NFTs. So it may be that the fad is past already, and yet some people are getting suckered into this. Next, USAtoday.com, Iowa basketball's Luka Garza becomes first college athlete to sell his own NFT card. And I'm like, wait, so you make one card, it's your official NFT card, and someone owns the card. And so, I mean, what's kind of cool is, like, it's, let's see, is this money going to charity? Garza explained he won't keep all the money earned from the sale of his NFT. A portion will go to the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital. Just a portion, not all of it, of course. If you're going to take advantage of suckers, you got to keep some of it for yourself. But there are enough people in the NFT world, like he might be. It's a sort of like diffuse open conspiracy, gimmick kind of thing. Is there a real concentrated conspiracy behind it? I don't know. But if a college athlete like this guy is prominent enough that he gets the attention of the NFT community of people who are pushing the scam, and they go, well, shit, we better buy this for a decent amount because we want more. We need to keep the racket going psychologically. So let's spend a few $100,000 on this. Let's bid it up, and we're going to come back to this. But yeah, I'm making some pretty strong predictions on NFTs here. The Sun, real steal, huge OnlyFans leak as hackers post stolen pics from hundreds of accounts online. I was like, oh man, I was about to start an OnlyFans account too. Now I'm like, man, my nudes aren't going to be safe. I'll just keep sending them to women by text message in a creepy way that I normally do. And I'm sure they'll never leak. Hundreds of OnlyFans accounts have been targeted by hackers who leaked explicit content online, according to cybersecurity experts. The content is said to have appeared in a shared Google Drive that was posted on an online hackers forum. As if there wasn't enough free porn on the internet. I see this and it's like, okay, so people who don't want to pay to see stuff on OnlyFans, if they want to dig through the dark web or whatever, can find it for free now.
It seems like old news.
But this is, the thing about OnlyFans, and this is like one of the things I genuinely appreciated in like the evolution of pornography. Not for myself, I don't think, but in the Patreon that we use to support Adam versus the Man, you're not paying for content anymore. Like, and I don't ever want to put content on. I mean, I do a few exclusive like behind the scenes and fun thing for patrons and stuff at Gardenia that I don't want to share with the general public for bigger liability reasons. But I don't want to put my main content ever behind a paywall. And you're not paying for content by supporting the show on Patreon. You're saying, I want to put money in the tip jar because I want to see this production succeed and grow and continue. This is not a threat to OnlyFans. Oh my God, OnlyFans got hacked, and the pictures that people thought they had exclusive access to was not quite so exclusive. Don't worry, they're still going to keep sending you money. This is still, and there's some cool stories about this, and we've covered this in some different ways over the past year, because a lot of women in the pandemic forced to work from home, losing jobs in sex work especially, but entertainment in general, and including service industry, servers, bartenders, everything associated with that. A lot of women have turned to OnlyFans, and generally it's been disappointing. It's not easy, but then those who have been successful have some have been very, very successful, and the fact that women are able to make money that way, that the internet is created another mechanism for that, I think that's great. So speaking of using the internet to its potential, studyfinds.org, going to Dr. Google to look up your symptoms actually leads to accurate diagnoses. Well, duh, that's why I do it. The moment something doesn't look or feel right, I mean, it's like, it's kind of like a no shit headline, but it's like, okay. It's worth confirming because this is a cool element of modern society that, like, if you didn't notice this, you can be a doctor now. Like, I shouldn't say that. Now I need to put the Corona disclaimer on screen. This is advice. Nope, stop. All right, yeah. But this is more misleading medical advice. I'm not saying don't go to a doctor, use the internet, but I am saying use the internet first. There's a great Kyle Kinane bit on this. I think if you go in and you've already diagnosed yourself properly, you should get $50 off your copay. If you're right, and you just go to the doctor for a prescription. But this is really an empowering thing about the internet for people to understand their health issues more directly and take charge of their own health. And you don't have to go to you don't have to go to medical school to be a doctor, to know your body and to know what's going on with it right now and do the research that's immediately relevant to that, because that's what doctors do. They go and look at you, and then if they don't know, they go, I'm going to go Google that shit and come around. But but what did they used to do? I'm going to go look this up. Let me go consult. I'm very important. I have what is Mr. Brian? I have many leather-bound books in my office. And it's like a doctor would have a wall of medical textbooks behind them. Now it's a fucking click away. WebMD that shit. Google that shit. But yeah, so let's see. We have some. Oh, there's another good term about in this. According to the report, Googling symptoms improves people's ability to diagnose their illness without adding additional stress. Yeah, but just taking away the stress of not knowing is great. Being able to understand is huge. Researchers from Brigham and Women's Hospital and Harvard Medical School admit that cyberchondria has made the value of internet medical searches controversial. And this is hypochondria. It's obvious what the word means, right? Cyberchondria, that look up, you put in your symptoms. Like if you go to WebMD and you say I have the sniffles, well, it might be AIDS. Yeah. No, so if you get carried away with that, you might be suffering from cyberchondria. But I think that's a small side effect compared to the huge positive effect, obviously, that people get from this. So, yeah. But this is the excuse, right? They say, well, don't look up your symptoms before you come to the doctor. Just trust the experts. It's like, yeah, if you're one of those freaks who's seeing a shrink and you're suffering from cyberchondria and your shrink says, don't look up your shit, then yeah. But for everybody else, like, no, take charge of your health. Use the truth button. It's one click away. So there's a lot of skepticism in pushing back, but this is actually a great affirmation, of people being able to take charge of their own health. And when you've studied the statistics on medical errors, like, oh, we accidentally amputated the wrong leg. Doctors might make that mistake. Patients wouldn't make that mistake for themselves. If you had to amputate your own leg, you would get the right leg. I'm not suggesting we get to that level yet, but who knows? Remember Star Wars, Luke gets the hand. Why does he not have a finger that shoots off with a spy camera on that in the movie? I figured that was
so many things.
Yeah, Star Wars. It's really just a soap opera in space. It's not even good science fiction, right? Okay, if I talk shit about Star Wars, I'm gonna break the internet. Maybe that should be my shtick on Adam versus the Man. This is how we win the internet. Just talk shit about Star Wars nonstop. Make fun of Jar Jar Binks. Fuck your Star Wars. I'm a Trekkie. Yeah, no. Enter the Trek wars, and then the Star Wars on the internet, and then all right, I'll stop. Axios with good news on government lessening restrictions. Denver eyes open container entertainment districts to boost restaurants. And there's a related story to this coming up. I'm gonna have to skip ahead, Jim. But this, when Denver eyes open container entertainment districts to boost restaurants, I'm like, wait, there are places you're not allowed to drink in public? Oh, yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing, and you just can't walk around with a container of alcohol without it being in a brown bag or like doing something stupid. Like, this is not a thing in Europe, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been to Europe, but they don't have, like, they're way more realistic just about alcohol. And you got to appreciate that about European culture. Whereas in the United States, well, we might let you drink in public here if we feel like being cool. Really? Okay, so the other story of, like, I thought that was legal already comes from EdgarAllanPoets.com. Yeah, this did not come from Drudge Report. This was in the Producers Club. Maine may legalize Viking-style funerals and let you literally go out in a blaze of glory.
That's cool.
And I'm like, no, it's been illegal. It's still illegal. And you're saying, no, right, really? The only reason we haven't had Viking funerals in America is because it's illegal. Like, I'm not. I like, this makes me want a Viking funeral. Not that, like, I'm not into that shit at all, but I'm like, that's illegal. Fucking sign me up. Put that in my will. Deny my will and see what the fuck happens, right? But no, really, like, that was illegal.
It's illegal to sprinkle ashes certain places.
It's a biohazard. Yeah. You burn a body, the ashes someone might inhale dead body ashes 100 miles away if you burn a body. Oh my God. Speaking of which, we learned how to bury a body here in Vegas last night. You don't just dig a deep hole out in the desert and bury the body. You dig an 8-foot hole, put your human body in, 2 feet of dirt, then a dead dog, then cover that with dirt. Then the cadaver dogs will never find it. And even if they do, they can see what happens. See how that works? That's how you hide a body in the desert.
Only in Vegas will we have fun.
So a little bit on the story. Maine may legalize Viking-style funerals and let you literally go out in a blaze of glory. It's a particularly cool inquiry to pose to your kindred drifter during a pleasant round of truth or dare at a Halloween party. How might you need your burial service to be? There are a great deal of approaches. Obviously, it's a rarity indeed, considered on the grounds that the prospect of making arrangements for our own post-mortem occasion isn't exactly a glad one. In any case, if you somehow managed to portray how you'd like your burial service to be, normally the words epic or boss may ring a bell. Without a doubt, there are a great deal of wonderful melodies that you may have effectively considered in your rundown. Yet, the way as such is certainly not a simple one to show up at. So, yeah, this is Sun Journal. This is current. This was March 24th, so a couple weeks ago, 2021, at Sun Journal. And they have a great picture of a painting depicting a classic funeral pyre. But the headline, yeah, legislature is weighing an unusual measure on outdoor cremations right now. If adopted, it would let people in the Pine Tree State choose to go out like a Jedi.
Like a Jedi.
Or a Viking king in a blaze of glory in the open air. And so there's a fun story and fun videos on this. And we're getting close on time, and we still have we got to talk about butthole sunning. So I'll refer you to the notes on that if you really want to get into how to arrange for a Viking funeral for yourself, or a Jedi funeral, I suppose, as would be the modern equivalent, more popular in America. I really need to make like Star Wars nerd jokes about this, right? But yeah, go out like a Jedi in a blaze of glory, just like in the movies, because you're that cool. Yeah. All your Dungeons and Dragon friends will be there and fully dressed up. All of your LARPers will come to. All the LARPers will come in appropriate regalia to your funeral. I want people to dress up in steampunk in mine, But I'm not any less of a nerd. But no, when I went to Iraq, I had to write a will, cremate me, and scatter my ashes at sea, and throw a big kegger to do it, like that. Yeah. All right. So, butthole sunning. I should have teased this earlier in the show. We're going to talk about butthole sunning. This is from dnamagazine.com.au, Australia. Yeah, butthole sunning. The craziest trend of 2020, question mark. Something we didn't see coming for 2020 was the Instagram wellness trend, perineum sunning, or butthole sunning, as it's colloquially known. As it sounds, it's the practice of letting the sunshine on your butthole as a way to get your daily dose of vitamin D. One such influencer, Certified Health Nut, claims 30 seconds of butthole sunning is equivalent to your daily dose of vitamin D. Well, if Certified Health Nut said it, it must be now 30 seconds. 40 seconds is too much. You might have, because they
want to overdose your butt.
But 20 seconds, not enough vitamin D. You got to get that full 30 seconds of, clear, cloudless sun on your butthole to have the appropriate effect. Speaking of misleading medical advice, however, it should be pointed out that so-called health benefits aren't proven. Oh, really? We haven't had studies yet on butthole sunning. This isn't, in the age of COVID, we're not rushing to make this a priority. Look, there's the picture. I knew the visuals with this story would be good. Speaking of Cosmo, Karen Campbell said the trend was hilarious. I think this is a joke. Someone's like trying to get people to do this. Oh, they've got JP Sears. Then it's definitely, yeah. There's zero evidence that there's any merit in sunning the skin between your anus and genitals. Yeah. Not only that, can aggravate herpes, HPV, can give you skin cancer. So not only is sunning your anus useless at best and dangerous at worst, but it's also wildly inefficient if your main goal is to get your body to produce more vitamin D. Now, the next time I'm tanning at home alone, everybody who's heard this story, whoever has the opportunity to tan naked after hearing the story, is at some point going to go, well, I could just assume the position for 30 seconds. Well, that was interesting. Feels good. Yeah, it's a little drier down there now, a little fresher. Do I feel the vitamin D? You get sunburned in 30 seconds on your butthole.
When's the last time your butthole's all sun?
All right. So yeah, we've got from I think JB Sears is trying to seriously explain this viral phenomenon while making fun of it. So yeah, you want to laugh, more stuff to refer to the notes. All right, quick update. As I said, a couple stories about Kentucky, or follow-ups here. The Courier Journal says, has this headline, what delays in the global supply chain could mean for Kentucky's bourbon industry. And this is a follow-up because while we were there evening before last, we were running into shortages at fast food places, and the next day, even Starbucks saying that their menu is limited because trucks haven't come apparently. We've all grown accustomed to our favorite whiskeys going on allocation when there's not enough to go around, thanks to the continued popularity of the drink we know and love. The fact that standbys we used to be able to grab at the corner spirit shop for $25 are now elusive bottles costing double or more as part of the price we pay for the booming industry. I chalk it up to everyone else getting on the bourbon bandwagon. But it turns out there's another factor in the mix these days that can make it harder to get our hands on the whiskeys we love: the pandemic. Thanks, COVID-19. The ripple effects of the pandemic seem never to end, and I learned one of the more fascinating ones recently while I was on a Zoom tasting. Yeah, with a few folks from Castle and Key Distillery. The event was meant to let some journalists sample its new Slow Hands single barrel rye, which of course was intriguing on its own. Then the distillery's co-founder, Wes Murray, mentioned that he had to buy air tickets from France to transport the glass used for the gorgeous bottles containing the rye. Wait, what? So I sat back down via Zoom with Murray a couple days later to get the full story. Anyways, was that a real thing? He said, yeah, very real. Normally the glass would have come on boat from Europe, but with social distancing and everything else, productivity is way down. Meanwhile, cargo boats are literally just floating in the ocean outside LA right now. So they air freighted the first 20,000 bottles in for their new whiskey. Thanks, COVID. You are paying more for whiskey as a result. Similar, wave3.com, which is local news business, Kentucky bars and restaurants face worker shortage as some COVID restrictions ease. And this is what we were talking about with Jenny running a retail operation. How many employees did she say she has for the Botany Bay locations?
7. Oh, for
More
both
than
of them?
But it's in the dozens,
Yeah.
something like that. And she's having a hard time staying staffed because people don't want to work. It's like in the age of UBI, and I'm not against that in principle. I want free market UBI for everybody. But with government UBI, you do have this consequence for the labor market, particularly right now. And maybe this is part of the whole deliberate engineering. We have to prop things up, and the result is that there's things are going to be. If we didn't do UBI and everybody was desperate for a job, then wages would come way down, and having a job would suck. So we have to make sure. And if this is the transition to I hate to say a lazier society, but a society less driven to work based on having to meet our own basic human needs because our inheritance covers that. And I mean that for every human being on earth, that the legacy of what is our generations before have done for us to make it so that, I used to fantasize about the point at which you can work for a year and support a family at today's quality of life for the rest of your life. You think about I bought land for $10,000, and you could buy a comfortable off-grid home and set it up on that for easily less than $30,000, and have, if you wanted to budget it out and be very cautious, you could have a comfortable off-grid home for a family and be self-sustaining off-grid with what you could make in a year. I don't want to say that we still got to pay your cell phone bill, at least for now. All right, so not for long, possibly. And pay for gas if you want to drive around and interact with the rest of the world. So it's not like you can completely do that. But if you work for a year and we're reasonably successful, what's average?
It's low.
Is it even
30?
Is it even worth looking up? What is the average annual American income right now with COVID? But whatever it is, it's significant enough, and technology is where it is with off-grid sustainability. 31,133 is 2019 U.S. median income. So now median, not the same as mean, which would be average, which might be more meaningful to this point. But median income, what is the statistic that means the most common in the middle, right? So that it's around 30 something thousand. It really is shockingly low. But even if you make the average amount, if you really want to scrape by and save and live as frugally as you can and make the leap to living off grid, at least you can do it in a few years, right? That's pretty cool. So we are almost at time. We're gonna have to save our weed block. I'm sorry, everybody. We'll smoke weed every day on this show, but some days we'll talk about it more than others. So GI, Mary Jane, and I will be doing that block from the home Gardenia studios of Adam versus the Man. Maybe we should save it's good news stuff. It's Friday. Good. Maybe we'll save this for Friday. We've got some cool UFO stories as well. So let's get John up on here, co-host, comment John today, to see what he's got for contest winners and maybe some comments to close out the show. John, how you doing, brother? No, your mic. Now your mic is doing the all static thing. He's got the fix.
Is it better?
There we go. That's it.
All
that was
right.
it. Lima Charlie now.
All right. I didn't get too much on immigration. Maria had a couple good comments. There was a lot of comments about international relations, and Empty was talking about, I think it was the Chinese eat dogs like Arlo. Don't send Arlo to China. That was about my favorite for the day.
I think without the send Arlo to China,
yeah,
ruins it. Because now you're being mean to a dog that has a name. No, but yes, to point out the irony, like, this is how Americans deal with dogs. This is how the Chinese deal. Hey, Arlo should be grateful he wasn't born in China.
Send our problems to China so they can send us back processed shit.
So any good names for the for fanny packing?
Fanny packing. The fanny packing is I don't know about fanny packing. I don't think I can wear one.
I told you were going to beat that today. Well, do you have a winner for your comment contest at all?
I would say it was Empty that had the Arlo comments about the China thing that were the best.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure Empty is, if not already a member, has won.
I think so.
So today, congratulations to producer club members for keeping it exclusive and winning the contest. So the giveaway goes to someone who's already a member. Any final thoughts today, John?
Don't be dicks to each other.
Any other comments that I didn't get to respond to on screen? You wanted?
There was one guy that I was trying to get up there. Let me see if I can go back. He was asking. Here we go. Somebody was wanting.
COVID's up. I might take a flight soon. Yeah, I guess it's worth giving a quick report on our COVID experience for Vegas. Got to the airport as soon as we got through the gate, masks off, and nobody said anything from then on until we got to the casino here, and Joey was checking in and was asked to put one on at the desk. Walking around, we were asked in casinos, you might be able to eventually like sit down and be sipping on a drink, and they're not strict about it, like, because it's Vegas, but it is kind of like it's funny because I didn't bring flip-flops on this trip, so I took my boots off in the hotel room and then walked down barefoot to get drinks. That's why I was barefoot at the bar last night. And it's funny, I think the barefoot at the bar is sort of like what it's always been in Vegas, like, oh, we got a dumb drunk guy, let's kindly, like, they came to me like, sir, where are your shoes? Not, are you walking around drunk with no shoes on? Because whatever.
For me.
Like, I love walking around barefoot anyway. Like, I'm a barefoot enthusiast. But
I can relate to that.
So it was no big deal, and I taught. They wouldn't let me get served while barefoot. They had to give. There was a friend of a friend with us, and they let her buy as many drinks. I handed her the cash. So, can you buy this, this, and this? They served it to her. I grabbed 3 of the drinks to carry them back to the room. So they were, and the security guys were like, "Oh, the eye in the sky pointed out there's a guy with no shoes, so we have to respond." And they said, mask too, but and it's the kind of thing, I don't want to make anybody's job more difficult if they're being cool about it.
I hear they're enforcing a lot too, and these casinos can get fined $10,000-$20,000 if I'm not wearing a mask. So there's.
So Vegas is.
What are the tables like? Do they have the plastic barrier? Like if you go down to play blackjack or roulette?
But it's still like if you like table games and that's your casino scene, it's alive. It's happening. You can stand
Okay.
around and sip drinks with a mask on your chin, and no one's going to bother you. But if you really want to be able to relax without a mask, I don't know if you'd have to wear a shirt that says medical exemption, if they would recognize that in casinos, or if they'll say, well, we'll serve you curbside, or who knows. I'm not going to explore all of that, but they are trying to operate at full speed. They're trying to
Yeah, they
operate the
were not
casinos
happy
and
with it.
astros, and rooms are they're not as cheap as they used to be, but they're still way cheaper than normal. And if you're willing to put up with some mask silliness, it might be a good time to come to Vegas.
Plus, you can buy your placebo mask here. So that's
Oh
great.
yeah, that's the other thing. So what Joey does is she wears a mask that's just mesh with rhinestones at the intersections on the mesh. It looks really cool. But if you look close, you go like, that's a see-through mask. And that's the kind of thing in Vegas. They're like, that's cool, right? No one's gonna give you shit about that in Vegas, right, Joey?
What about
So
so the tables that do they still have like the plastic dividers and the dealers are wearing masks and everybody still has to wear masks?
yeah, staff is all wearing masks, so that's a little creepy. Like, I don't like that. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, you're
everybody's
supposed to be
agent's scared
friendly with that
now.
person while he talks you into losing all your money. And it's hard
Yeah.
to do that when you got a big old wall up in front of you.
Yeah, there's something about, I mean, the dealer and the bartender and that personal interaction as being a critical part of the Vegas casino whole party experience that it is kind of weird right now. So thanks for bringing that up, John. Any final thoughts before we let Jim take us home with the promos and get to the good news?
Let it go, Jim. I'm good to go, man.
All right, super speedy promo in the house coming at you. Join the public Telegram chat, t.me/Adam versus the man. That's a Telegram Messenger app. You download it, you join that group. Everyone is welcome. If you want to be like all the cool people that won the contest today that are already in the Private Producers Club, you can go to Adam versus the Man, the screen, the website at the bottom of the screen there. You can get everything there. You can even actually watch the live show there. Like you can see us right there. See, hi, that's us on the live website right there. You click on the Patreon, you can check out the different levels to support the show, $1, $5, $10, or even $50 a month. $10 a month gets you access into the Producers Club, so definitely check that out. Check out the shop that CJ's put together. Get your hats, shirts, backpacks. I'm not even going to mention this product right now to not stir a debate. Get your products. Producers Club members and better patrons get 15% off of all purchase,
Fanny
all
packing,
merchandise.
baby. Are you fanny packing? I'm packing. Are you fanny packing?
Get yourself fanny packing. Get Adam versus the Man fanny packing and get it customized. Definitely, if somebody does that, they need to get a hold of you on Twitter and tag you on Twitter and whatnot. That's definitely the case if they do that to a backpack. Anyways, while you're on Adam versus Man, do all the things, click all the buttons, check out all the stuff, and then after you're done with that, I know you're on Instagram. I know you've heard of it. So go there and check out, search for @the Garden of Freedom. You can check out all the cool stuff he has going up in Gardenia right now. After you're done with that, the two last promotions we have are the Crypto 6. They still need your help. Go to thecrypto6.com, which for some reason is not even showing up on my list right now. I must have accidentally closed it out in the madness of production of this show. But the Crypto 6 is definitely where it's at. And lastly, our good friends over at gogreenenergyonline.com encourage you to click on that website that I just mentioned and click around their website to learn new stuff about solar, about wind, about everything you need to do to get yourself self-sustained, no matter even if you live in the city or if you live off grid. You can learn a lot of things from that website. So check out gogreenenergyonline.com.
Thank you, Jim. And finally, just one point on good news on this day in history from goodnewsnetwork.org. It was on this day in 1933 that prohibition against drinking beer was ended in the United States, and the return of the multi beverage is celebrated on this day as Brew Year's Day. So happy Brew Year's Day, everyone. Mwah, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.